Hello folks, Dick Fairburn here. In this video I want to talk about how we need to protect the Second Amendment and even more than protect it, aggressively protect it. We're winning overall, but it's starting to wear me kind of thin with silly judges, silly governors doing whatever they think they want to do when the Supreme Court has made abundantly clear what the Second Amendment truly means. So I'm going to let Bad Dickie out to play a little bit and tell you how I think we need to take the war to them. Not physically, but professionally. If you want to hear my thoughts, stick around. Over the course of, let's say, my last 25 years or so, both as an employee of the Illinois State Police, mostly at the State Police Academy in Illinois, and my last few years as a public safety director here in my hometown in Illinois, I have, let's say, developed a reputation. I think I'm fair. The employees seem to be very happy, and they like, for the most part, enjoy working for me. But by the same token, my tolerance for bullshit has worn out. I'm tired of dealing with idiots in both my professional life and my personal life when it comes to the Second Amendment. So I'm going to lay out 5 ways I think we can turn this fight more aggressively and maybe beat these bastards down to a point where we don't have to listen to them quite as much. We'll never make them go away. They're not smart enough to give in and know when they're beat, but we need to beat them all the same. Here's some recent examples. In New Mexico, the governor tried to nullify the citizens' rights by an executive order banning the carrying of weapons, even with legal concealed carry permits in an entire county. She does not have the authority to do that. Those kind of people have no right to hold the office they are in. And we need to take the battle to them and understand it's going to hurt them both professionally and personally when they ignore current law. And lawyers understand, or are supposed to understand, that current law includes case law from the Supreme Court. After the ruling last year in NYSERPA versus Bruen, we saw several states flip a giant finger to the Supreme Court. California, Hawaii, my home state of Illinois, New Jersey, New York, others, after that decision made clear how they were supposed to behave, they said, screw you, we're going to make it more repressive than it was before. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court does not have a legal mechanism to punish people who disobey their orders. So I think it's up to us, the citizens, the patriots of this country, to use every weapon we possibly can get our hands on to smack these people around and make them understand you can act like this if you want to, but it's going to cost you personally and professionally. First, a disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. If you want legal opinions, the 2 best sources I think you can get on YouTube are the 4 Boxes Diner and Washington Gun Law. For Illinois-specific stuff, and he's not an attorney, but he is definitely the guru of Illinois Gun Control Act, that's Freedom Steel, where Todd Vandermite occasionally posts stuff that's mostly specific to Illinois. The other disclaimer is I am not advocating for any form of physical violence against our opponents in the Second Amendment fight. When I say slap them around, when I say beat them down and stomp their guts out, I mean we need to do that legally, not physically. So I am not advocating for any form of violence at this point. People talk about a civil war in this country, and I really think we're on the edge of that precipice about to fall off. But we haven't yet. So the time for violence is not here. Yet. I really hope we never get to that point. We've seen the rulings of Heller, McDonald, and most lately Bruen, which have very specifically outlined what rights we have that the Second Amendment is an individual right for every citizen to keep and bear arms. Keep them in our homes, bear them in public. And even those bluest of blue states will be told to toe the line. And that brings me to a point. If you call up the county voting map for the last 2 or 3 elections, there really aren't any blue states. They're all overall colored red. The blue is blue cities. And that's really what we're talking about here. This is a war between city folk and country folk. And just like Bocephus said, country boys can survive. I already know who's going to win this fight. I just haven't got your dumb ass convinced yet. The gunfighter books, Building a Better Gunfighter, my second book, are about gone. I've got about 20 copies left. That's all the hard copies I know of in captivity. They both Building a Better Gunfighter and my earlier book, Police Rifles, should be out on my website in ebook form within a couple of weeks. So, my preamble is too long. I want to give you 5 aggressive actions that the pro-Second Amendment society needs to start unleashing on our enemies. And folks, they are not really opponents. They are our sworn enemies. Okay, aggressive action number 1. We're already doing this. We need to do it faster. We need to do it harder. And we need to do it with the end goal being making these people understand they can't do this anymore. And that is to file every available lawsuit and appeal that's open to us, including jumping the appellate courts when necessary and going direct to the Supreme Court. And we've had a couple direct appeals to the Supreme Court on Second Amendment cases of late. And so far, they have not taken our side and started to slap these situations down. And I think what the Supreme Court wants to do is for these courts to understand at the district level, at the appellate level, and to come into compliance willingly. I don't think you have people who are intelligent enough to know they need to do these things willingly. They are Marxists, and they are out to destroy this country any way they can. The way to build the society back in their dream, for that to happen, it has to be torn down first. And that's how they're approaching all of this stuff. So this is why I say, not violent, not physical, but we need to stop the guts out of these unconstitutional laws before they cause the irreparable harm that we know they do. So we need to file the lawsuits. This is the most appropriate legal way to defend our rights. That means we need to fund the legal apparatus. If you have not donated money to a legal team fighting these laws somewhere in the country, then shame on you. Crack the wallet open, let the moths fly out, and send them at least $20. If you're not willing to do that, then just how willing are you to fight for our rights? They know that these things will financially bleed us dry. And that is part of the reason they passed these laws in the first place. Hold fundraisers where you do gun raffles. I can't imagine anything that would piss these people off more than to think we are selling guns as a way of raising money to fight what they're trying to accomplish. Another part of this is that we need to sue for restitution of the legal costs every time we file a suit. At every level where we file the suit, we need to make them pay the bill for us defending our rights. It is not us who is screwing up our rights. It is them. And it's not a privilege. They think it is. It's a right. You step on my rights, I shouldn't have to spend my money to slap you down. So, make the states, make the local jurisdictions pay for the irreparable damages that they cause. Aggressive action number 2. We need to attack the purveyors of these unconstitutional laws, both professionally and personally. A month or so ago, I saw Four Boxes Diner address several questions. People saying, hey, if these elected officials are doing things that they know or should have known were unconstitutional, can we charge them criminally? Can we charge them with treason? Treason essentially is a wartime charge. So it's my understanding that would not fit at all. And no, these people basically cannot be charged criminally. However, I think there is another way that we can attack them. First of all, let's go to the constitutional way to do it first. We can begin impeachment proceedings. Now, impeachment proceedings have had mixed results. In some places, they're a joke. They never work. But we saw a governor impeached in California. We saw a governor impeached a few years ago here in Illinois. He was one of our two that spent time in federal prison. So impeachment can work. At the very least, impeachment diverts their attention. They have to put time and money into protecting themselves from impeachment that they might be otherwise using to attack our Second Amendment rights. So we need to file impeachment whenever they do something like this. We need to file recall elections whenever these elected officials do things contrary to the U.S. Constitution. Will they work? Not likely. As a part of this, I think we need to explore the possibility of suing leftist politicians personally for their unconstitutional actions. Not only recall, not only impeachment, but hold them financially accountable for what they have done. Now, attorneys are going to tell us that elected officials are protected from their personal responsibility by their elected status. That's attorneys protecting attorneys. Even if they're on our side, they get a little uncomfortable thinking it might cost them out of their pocket for some action they take. But they need to understand that we're going to try. And I think it's possible to win if we come about it from the right direction. Since all elected officials swear an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, when they violate that oath, they should lose the color of their authority. Their office gives them no authority to take part in an unconstitutional action. So when they make such a ruling or they vote for such a law, they are acting outside the color of their authority. They don't have the authority to do that. And they should be held personally responsible for the damages that they helped to cause. What kind of damages? You're going to sue in court, you need to have standing. I spent $200 on magazines that I never would have bought if they had not enacted some stupid law in Illinois that violates the U.S. Constitution. How about that? Now, when you take that couple $100 times a few million gun owners in Illinois, and we spread that out among the people who unconstitutionally voted to take our rights away, outside the color of their authority, that should give everybody some pause. Aggressive action number 3. Let's throw the bastards out. I've talked about impeachment and recall, which has mixed results. The legal, accepted way to deal with the kind of politicians we don't like is to vote them out of office. But here's the problem. Coming from Illinois, where voter fraud was perfected, if not invented in the first place, I can tell you this option has little teeth. The U.S. electorate is proving themselves to be little more than babbling idiots on a regular basis. In the last cycle, Lori Lightfoot was the mayor of Chicago. By any measure, she was probably the worst mayor anywhere in history. She was thrown out of office by the voters and replaced by someone who gives us every indication he will be an even bigger idiot. I'm not sure we can trust the American population to vote for their own well-being most of the time. And that doesn't really matter in a lot of cases because voter fraud has reached a level where we may never have a fair election again in this country. But at the very least, we need to recruit good candidates to run against all of these anti-Second Amendment idiots. The problem with this is good candidates don't want to subject themselves and their families to the hell that will rain down on them from the liberal or Marxist side of the House during the election process. I took part in the election process in a county in Wyoming a number of years ago running for sheriff. Just running for sheriff in a population with about 5,000 or 6,000 people. I will never put myself or my family through that hell again. But still, we need to find people who will give it a try and who will run against these monsters. And that means we need to support them tirelessly. And we need to fund them overwhelmingly. Open that wallet again and fund these people to run against the monsters. I said that voter fraud has reached a level where we may never again have an honest election, and I truly believe that. There is no question in my mind that the presidential election of 2020 was stolen. Oh God, now I'm a denier. They're going to beat up on me. I'm nobody. You beat all you want. You're not going to change my mind. The U.S. Constitution spells out the procedure for setting state rules for the election of federal candidates. And it specifies that those rules can only be set by the state legislature. At least 4 states, I had this in my mind once, I'm not going to bother to research it again. 4 states specifically changed their election rules while early voting was already underway. And those changes were not made by the state legislature. In one case, it was a federal judge. I believe in 2 cases, it was Secretary of State. In another, it was a governor. The point is, those changes were unconstitutional. Everything was done supposedly because of the COVID pandemic. No, that was just an excuse. They have been trying to railroad the election process completely into the Marxist side of the house for years. And they might have accomplished it once and for all. They stole a presidency. Now they like to sit around and claim that Trump stole it from Hillary Clinton. No, he took it from her. Biden stole it from Trump. I'll tell you, Trump was not my first candidate. I have other people I think would do a better job simply because of the way they talk. But in terms of accomplishing good things for the country, no one can compare to what Donald Trump did in 4 years of the presidency. While he was under absolute total attack from every direction for that whole time period, he still accomplished more than anybody else. So we desperately need him back in there. Whether you like other Republican candidates better, it doesn't matter. We need that guy. We need a jerk to go in there and kick ass for 4 years and try to turn this country around. Stop this hell-bent charge to oblivion, because that's what these people want. The mail-in voting process we saw radically expanded during COVID is absolutely impossible to do honestly. We need to return to voting day. You go to the polls, you cast your vote, or you get an absentee ballot, which has a few hurdles you need to jump through to obtain. But this idea that we're going to mail out millions of ballots, maybe even millions more than we have registered voters, because we trust that each voter will only send one back. Yeah, well, there's a load of bullshit too. They have professionals out there gathering those ballots, filling them out the way they want them, and depositing dozens of these things in the voting boxes all the way up to the actual election day. This is the hanging chads from Florida. Forensically, they proved, beyond any question of a doubt, the hanging chads in those punch cards in Florida were caused by people putting 4 or 5 punch cards in at a time to rig the vote by turning in false ballots. They didn't have enough force to get through all 5 of those punches and knock them out, so once in a while the back one was a hanging chad. They attempted to steal that election, and luckily for us, the Supreme Court stopped it. I'm not sure we can stop it anymore. Personally, I think the computerized voting machines should be illegal as well. Fill in the bubble with a pen, run it through the counter, keep accurate tabs on that counter, and make sure that counter cannot be linked to the internet where the software can be fudged. We have to take back the voting process in the United States, or we will end up being about as fair as the votes that were cast in the former Soviet Union. That's really what we've become. Here's how you can help. Sign up to be an election worker. My wife is an election worker, going to the polls, verifying signatures, checking those people every time there's a vote. There are also things assigned to the polls called poll watchers. Democrats get them, Republicans get them. A lot of those jobs go unfilled. And depending where you live, most of the unfilled slots are Republican workers. So there's no one there to watch this process and say, whoa, wait a minute, where did that big box of ballots come from? Because that's what we saw in Arizona and a lot of other places. If nothing else, if you are in a state with mail-in voting, organize a little militia in your state just to keep an eye on the boxes where they drop those things in. And sit there and photograph the people that are dropping in handfuls of ballots, because there was lots of video to prove that in the last election in a couple of different states. Totally dismissed by the courts. That's because it's after the fact, and they are very reticent to change the outcome of an election, especially if they are on the liberal Marxist side of the argument and they don't want to overthrow it anyway. So we need to watch those things happen for a month or two before the election and take those photographs to authorities then, before the election. We need to stop this process in its infancy. Perhaps in the gun clubs in your county, maybe the State Rifle Association in your state can form a militia to take turns sitting on those boxes, watching for people who are coming multiple times or depositing multiple ballots. And the moment you identify that, you take that to the authorities. And if the authorities dismiss it, then you raise unholy hell on the internet, on social media, on the mainstream media if they will take your story. You stop these things before they're able to happen. Aggressive action number 4. We need to file disbarment charges against any elected official who is a state licensed attorney who either issues an unconstitutional order or votes for an unconstitutional law. These people are not ordinary citizens who are elected to office. They are licensed attorneys. Part of being an attorney, being admitted to the bar, being an officer of the court, is that they need to be current with all the laws that affect what they do. Case laws like Bruen have the same power, in some ways more power, than statutes that are passed by a legislature and signed by a governor. Case law is law they must respect as an attorney. They can disagree with it, and they can take ways to work around the edges, or they can try to change it. But until it is changed, they are obligated to obey it. If they don't, there again, that is a personal action. It is outside the color of their authority, and I think we have perfect right to go to the attorney licensing setup in whatever state you're in and file charges asking for disbarment as an incompetent attorney. Judges who rule contrary to SCOTUS, elected officials who vote contrary to the SCOTUS rulings, are too damned incompetent to work as an attorney. So we need to take their livelihood away from them. Now, I'm quite sure a whole lot of attorneys out there will tell me that this is not possible, that this is wrong thinking. That's attorneys protecting their friends and their profession. They're circling their wagons. We need to attack these people every way possible. You need to understand, Mr. Elected Official in Illinois, that if you voted for the PICA law when you knew goddamn well it was illegal, then you should lose your livelihood as an attorney, at the very least. It has to cost these people personally. It affects us personally when they do whatever they can to try to strip us of our rights. Aggressive action number 5, my final one. We need to strengthen and fund the pro-gun groups who are out there filing and winning the lawsuits. And we are winning more than we are losing. But we are losing things we shouldn't lose. And we are winning fights we shouldn't even have to fight. I am an NRA member. The NRA finally showed its head. They filed a state court filing in the New Mexico carry ban ruling. And Mark Smith at Four Boxes Diner said it actually made sense to come at them kind of on that state back door in case something broke down on the federal side. So he thought the NRA's actions were good. I'm a benefactor member of the NRA. That is the highest level of membership you can get. That means you have gone on beyond life member several times and paid additional money to buy into that level of membership in the NRA. In reading the profiles when we vote for board of directors, I don't even see a majority of board of directors put in their biography that they are benefactor members. So they probably hold some lower level to begin with. They're not willing to commit the kind of money it needs to get to benefactor status. As a benefactor member, I am absolutely sickened by the current state of the National Rifle Association. Now, I understand that they've been under relentless attack by the Attorney General in New York State. But it's my understanding those proceedings are essentially finished. Point is, it's time for the NRA to come back to the forefront. They were once the absolute forefront of defense of the Second Amendment, and they have not been in this latest round of fights. They are just starting to get back in the game. I personally feel the reason for the NRA's decline primarily is the fact that Wayne LaPierre is still the executive director. He's been accused of wrongdoing. I don't really care about the wrongdoing. I don't care if he did it or not. I think every person who sits at the top of an organization like the NRA should be term limited. Because if they're there too long, what they do, which is exactly what LaPierre has done, is stack the board of directors with a lot of loyal friends who will never, ever vote him out. So we need to get him voted out and replaced. And don't tell us that no one else can do the job he has done. We didn't know if he could do it when we hired him. So let's hire somebody else. We need to change the executive director. We need to term limit the executive director. We need a smaller board of directors. And we need to term limit the board of directors. We need to get the NRA back on track. Get the money flowing into them the way it once did. And let them lead a lot of the legal fight that we're up against out there in this battle. Sorry, Wayne, we've never met. I've seen you at the convention walking around with your security in a very expensive looking suit. I'm sorry, sir. It's time for you to go. And the longer you stay, the more damage you do to the organization you claim to support. So, 5 ways to aggressively protect the Second Amendment. File every possible lawsuit and appeal and fund these legal fights. And at the same time, we sue for legal reimbursement. We make them pay for the wrongs they committed that forced us to go to court. 2. Attempt impeachment and recall for every Second Amendment elected official and judge. And sue them personally for the damage they did while acting outside the color of their authority. I really think that's a valid attack. It's going to take a much brighter legal mind than mine to put the words together. But I think it is a viable way to attack these people personally. 3, throw the bastards out. Work for honest elections, find good candidates, and fund those candidates. But mostly, go for valid elections. Raise hell in your state to get rid of mail-in voting, and it will not be easy. Those people have been wanting to get that for decades. And now that they have that way to cheat, they are not going to willingly give it up. So that's going to be a separate fight on its own. Be prepared to fight that fight. 4, file disbarment charges against any elected official who is a licensed attorney, or any judge, since they are virtually all licensed attorneys. File disbarment charges against these people when they take unconstitutional actions. Taking those actions are outside the color of their authority. They are outside of the knowledge base they are supposed to have as a current member of the state bar. If they are that incompetent, then we need to take their livelihood away from them. Just that simple. 5, strengthen the pro-Second Amendment groups that are out there. The ones who, other than the NRA, have been doing a bang-up job. I'm not going to name them here because I would forget one, and that's not fair. We need to fund all of them. But the cornerstone of our protection for generations has been the National Rifle Association. I still support them if they can get back into doing the right thing for the right reasons. So let's build that organization back up. Let's clean that organization up. And let's get them on the front line of fighting this fight for us. I've had a few people write comments into me about my videos and ask me my thoughts on the Second Amendment, because I don't think I've sat and spelled them out the way I have today. If there's any doubt in my thoughts about the Second Amendment, I hope I've cleared those up. If not, post a comment and ask me, because I'll be glad to tell you. I think it's an absolute right. Absolute. If you want to protect yourself in public with a gun, in your home, on your land, or in public, go for it. I have a little pocket pistol in here right now, in my home, when I'm mowing the yard. I have one on me when I'm awake. Is it because I'm scared? No. It's because I was a cop, and I saw a lot of bad things happen. And some of those bad things might happen again when I happen to be there and could put a stop to it. or protect myself and my family. I'm completely in favor of you being able to be armed and protect yourself in public. I'm sure that the lawyers and detractors out there will flood the comments with why my ideas can't happen, why we can't disbar them, why we can't sue them personally. We can't if we don't try. And we may try and fail in many locales, understood. But I think planting that seed is a little bit like Doolittle's raid on Tokyo. It did very, very little damage, but it made the Japanese understand that we might just break it off in your ass someday. And that changed the attitude of their citizens. We need to change the attitude of these people who think they have a God-given right to take our rights away. We need to scare them and bring a lot of this stuff to a quick resolution. If I pissed anybody off out there, I don't really care. If you think what I'm saying makes sense, then spread this around and let's go after these people as hard as we possibly can. After the Bruen decision, we have the tool we need to slap them down. So let's just slap them down and get it over with. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you watch my next one. If you like what I'm doing and saying, please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up. Have a good day and be safe out there. Okay, we got them both here now. You ready? Bud got one. Ginger got one. Oh, she missed it. She usually gets them, doesn't she, Bud? Okay, girl, last one. You ready? You ready? Yeah! That's all there is till next time.